March 12, 1954. The Sands Hotel, Las Vegas. Frank Sinatra is mid-song when he suddenly stops, drops the microphone. 2,000 people watching in stunned silence. He walks off stage toward a security guard dragging someone out the back door. What Frank does next will either end his Vegas career or make him a legend. They say Frank Sinatra was the king of cool. But what happened that night wasn't cool. It was something else entirely. It was the moment Frank Sinatra chose friendship over fame, threw a punch that blacklisted him from half the casinos in Vegas, and proved that some things matter more than applause. To understand what happened, you need to understand Las Vegas in 1954. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand Las Vegas in 1954. It was a city owned by the mob. The casinos, the shows, everything ran through organized crime. The rules were simple: perform, entertain, shut up. But there was another rule. Blacks could perform on stage. They could make white audiences cry. But they couldn't walk to the front door, couldn't eat in the restaurant, couldn't use the same bathroom. Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the biggest stars in Vegas, legendary performer. But every night, Sammy walked out the service entrance, the back door, next to the trash. Frank and Sammy had been brothers since 1941. They met in a Detroit club. Sammy was 18, tap dancing. Frank watched him and thought, "This kid is better than me." 13 years later, they weren't colleagues. They were family. Sammy called Frank Charlie. Frank called Sammy Smokey. But respect didn't open doors in 1954. March 12th, Frank's opening night at the Sands. 2,800 people. Sammy sat in the back, not front row. That wasn't allowed. Before the show, Frank grabbed Sammy's shoulder. "Stick around after. We'll grab dinner." "Sounds good, Charlie." At 9 p.m., Frank hit the stage. "Luck be a lady." The crowd erupted. Frank transitioned into "I've got you under my skin." Perfect. Then Sammy stood up, walked toward the lobby, just going to the restroom. A security guard stepped in front of him. Big, cold eyes. "Where do you think you're going, boy?" Sammy stopped. "I'm just going to the restroom." "Not through here. Your kind uses the back." Then the guard grabbed his arm. "Hard. I said use the back door." People stared, whispered. Sammy's head dropped. He'd been here before. "You don't fight. You survive." He started toward the back exit. Frank was on stage, eyes closed. When he heard the commotion, he looked up. Through the lights, he saw Sammy, saw the guard's hand on his arm, saw his brother's bowed head. Frank's voice stopped. The band kept playing. The room waited. Frank dropped the microphone. It hit the stage like a gunshot. 2,800 people went silent. Frank walked off stage, through the crowd, towards Sammy. What he did next would cost him everything. Frank didn't run. He walked, slow, deliberate, every step measured like he was still on stage. The crowd parted. 2,800 people watching him move through the room, like a man walking toward a cliff. Some thought it was part of the show. Others knew better. Sammy was at the back exit now. Head down, shoulders tight. The guard still had his arm. Frank reached them, let him go. The guard turned, recognized Frank immediately, but he didn't let go. "Mr. Sinatra, this doesn't concern you. I'm just doing my job." "Your job is to drag my friend out like he's trash?" "Your friend needs to use the proper entrance. That's the rule." Frank stepped closer, close enough to smell the guard's cheap cologne, close enough to see the veins in his neck. Whose rule? Hotel rule? Management rule? You got a problem? Take it up with them. Frank's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. "Not yet. Not yet. Where's management?" The guard smirked. "Mr. Intratter's in his office, but he's busy." "Not anymore." Frank turned to Sammy. "Smokey, wait here." Sammy grabbed his arm. "Charlie, don't. Just leave it. I'm fine." "You're not fine, and I'm not leaving it." Frank walked toward the manager's office. His mind wasn't on the show anymore, wasn't on the contract, wasn't on the money. All he could see was Sammy's bowed head, The way people looked away. The way the guard grabbed him. Like he was nothing. Frank had spent 13 years watching this. 13 years of Sammy walking through back doors, eating in kitchens, sleeping in colored hotels while Frank stayed in penthouses. And every time, Frank told himself, that's just how it is. You can't change the world. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the injustice wasn't happening somewhere else. It was happening in front of him, in his show, in a room that was applauding him while humiliating his brother. He reached the office, didn't knock, just opened the door. Jack Entratter was behind his desk. Expensive suit, expensive cigar, the face of the mob in a Windsor knot. Frank, what the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be on stage. I'm done for the night. Jack's face went red. Done? You got 40 minutes left. Not anymore. What's this about? Sammy Davis, junior year security, just dragged him out because he tried to use the front door. Jack leaned back in his chair, took a long pull from a cigar. Frank, you know the rules. Coloreds use the service entrance. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Then change it. Jack laughed. Not a friendly laugh. A dismissive laugh. Change it? You think I make the rules? This is Vegas, Frank. This is 1954. You want integration, move to Canada. Frank's voice dropped. Quiet. Dangerous. Jack, I'm going to say this once. Either Sammy walks through that front door as my guest with respect, or I don't go back on that stage. Tonight, tomorrow, ever. The room went cold. Jack stopped laughing, put down his cigar. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? Frank, you have a contract. You can't just walk. Watch me. Jack stood up, walked around the desk, got close to Frank, close enough to threaten without touching. You walk off the stage, you'll never work in Vegas again. You understand me? I'll make one phone call. Every casino in this city will blacklist you. You'll be finished. Frank didn't blink. Then I guess I'm finished. This isn't about your friend, Frank. This is about you being a hothead. You're making this personal. It is personal, Jack. Sammy is my brother. You disrespect him, you disrespect me. Jack's face twisted. Brother? He's a Negro, Frank. He's not your brother. He's an entertainer. A prop. You use him. He uses you. Everyone makes money. That's the deal. And that's when it happened. Frank's fist moved before his brain caught up. Fast. Hard. Clean. It connected with Jack's jaw. A crack like a baseball bat hitting leather. Jack stumbled backward. Hit the desk. Went down. Blood poured from his mouth. He looked up at Frank, shocked, furious, terrified. You crazy son of a... That's for calling him prop. Two security guards burst through the door. Big men. Armed. Frank turned to face them. Hands still in fists. You want some too? They hesitated. This was Frank Sinatra, the biggest star in Vegas. You don't just grab him. Jack was on the floor, holding his jaw, blood dripping through his fingers. Get him out. Get him out of my hotel. Frank looked down at Jack. No anger on his face now. Just cold certainty. I'm leaving, but not because you told me to. Because I can't stand the smell in here. He walked past the guards. Out of the office. Down the hallway. Sammy was still by the back exit. Confused. Worried. Charlie, what happened? We're leaving. What did you do? What I should have done years ago. Come on. Frank grabbed Sammy's arm. Not the way the guard had. Gentle. Protective. They walked toward the front entrance. The main doors. The ones Sammy was never allowed to use. The security guard from earlier was standing there. Watching. Waiting. Frank walked straight at him. You gonna stop us? The guard looked at Frank's hands. Still clenched. Still ready. He looked at Frank's eyes. Cold. Unflinching. The guard stepped aside. Frank and Sammy walked through the front doors of the Sand Hotel. Together. Outside, the Las Vegas night was warm. Neon lights flickered. Cars passed. Life continued. But inside, everything had changed. Sammy turned to Frank. You just punched Jack Entratter. Yeah. You know what that means? Yeah. Charlie, you just threw away your career for me. Frank looked at his friend, his brother, the man who'd walked through 1,000 back doors without complaining, the man who smiled through the humiliation because survival was more important than pride. Smokey, if standing up for you cost me everything, then everything wasn't worth having. Sammy's eyes filled with tears. He didn't cry, but his voice cracked. Why'd you do it? Frank put his hand on Sammy's shoulder. Because you're my brother. And nobody treats my brother like that. Not while I'm breathing. They stood there for a moment. Two men, two friends, in a city that would punish one of them for being loyal. Frank didn't know it yet, but the call was already being made. Jack and Trader was on the phone with every major casino in Vegas. The message was simple. Frank Sinatra is blacklisted. Don't book him. Don't touch him. He's done. By morning, Frank would lose 3 contracts. $200,000. Gone. But standing there outside the Sands, with Sammy next to him, Frank didn't care. He'd thrown the punch. And he'd do it again. The news spread fast. By midnight, every manager in Vegas knew. Frank Sinatra punched Jack and Trader. Frank Sinatra walked off stage. Frank Sinatra chose a colored singer over his career. Frank was in his suite at the Riviera. Sammy with him. Neither sleeping. Just sitting, drinking coffee, waiting. The phone rang at 12:47 a.m. Yeah. Frank, it's Hank. His manager, voice tight with panic. Hank, what the hell did you do? You heard? Everyone heard. Jack's on the phone with every casino owner. You're blacklisted, Frank. Completely. Frank sipped his coffee. I figured. You figured? The Sands was $200,000 a year. Desert and pulled their offer. Flamingo won't touch you. You're done. Then I'm done. Silence. Then Hank's voice, desperate. Why, Frank? Why'd you do it? Because it was right. Right? You destroyed your career for Sammy Davis. Frank's grip tightened. For Sammy Davis. My brother. Yeah, Hank. I did. Call Jack. Apologize. Say you were drunk. Fix this. I'm not apologizing. Frank. I'm not apologizing for standing up for someone who deserves respect. He hung up. Sammy stared from across the room. Charlie, you just lost everything. I lost money. Not everything. $200,000 a year. It's just money. Frank walked to the window, looked at the glowing strip. All those lights, all those casinos, built on blood and silence. He'd been part of it for so long. Singing for mobsters, taking their money, playing their game. For what? Applause? Frank turned to Sammy. You know what I realized tonight? I've spent my whole life trying to be somebody, trying to be famous. But respect doesn't mean anything if you don't earn it the right way. You earned it, Charlie. You're Frank Sinatra. No, Frank Sinatra is a name, a guy in a tuxedo who sings. But tonight, I felt like a man, because I did something that mattered. Sammy's voice cracked. It mattered to me. Then that's all that matters. The phone rang 5 more times that night. Managers, agents, friends, all saying, fix this, apologize. Frank didn't answer. The next morning, the Las Vegas Sun ran a small article on page 7. Sinatra incident at Sands. It didn't mention Sammy, didn't mention race. Just said Frank had a disagreement with management. The real story stayed underground, whispered in dressing rooms, shared among performers who understood what Frank had done. 3 days later, Dean Martin called. Pally, I heard what you did. Yeah. You're either the bravest guy I know or the dumbest. Frank laughed. First time in 3 days. Maybe both. Jack's got a broken jaw. You know that? Good. Dean paused. You need work. You offering? I'm at the Riviera next month. They want me to bring someone. I want you. Dean, they blacklisted me. Riviera didn't. Owner's Gus Greenbaum. He doesn't like Jack. Says if Jack doesn't want you, he does. Frank looked at Sammy. Only if Sammy comes. Same dressing room, same door, same treatment. Dean didn't hesitate. Done. You sure? Frank, you punch a mob guy for doing the right thing. You think I'm gonna let you starve? We're family. That's what family does. Frank's throat tightened. Thanks, Dean. Just don't punch me. I bruise easy. Frank hung up, turned to Sammy. We got a gig. Where? Riviera. Next month. You and me, both walking to the front door. Sammy started laughing. Deep, uncontrollable. Charlie, you're crazy. I know. You threw away 200 grand. I know. And you do it again? Frank smiled. In a heartbeat. That night, Frank lay in bed thinking about the choice he'd made. The money he'd lost. The bridges he'd burned. He didn't regret a second. Because somewhere in Vegas, in a small apartment off Fremont Street, Sammy Davis Jr. was lying in bed thinking the same thing. For the first time in his life, someone with power had used it to protect him, not because it was profitable, not because it was smart, because it was right. And that was worth more than every dollar Frank would ever lose. The punch Frank threw that night cost him a fortune, but it bought him something money never could, his soul back. The Riviera show happened 4 weeks later. Frank and Sammy walked through the front entrance together, side by side. No guards, no whispers. The dressing room had 2 names on the door, Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., same size letters. Equal. Sammy stared at it, tears in his eyes. Charlie, you know what this means? It means we're doing a show. No, it means something changed. And something had. Word spread through the entertainment world. Not in newspapers, but backstage, in dressing rooms, among performers who'd swallowed humiliation their whole lives. Frank Sinatra had stood up, and he'd paid for it. Within 6 months, 3 Vegas hotels quietly changed their policies. Performers of color could use the main entrance, could eat in restaurants, could stay in rooms, not because hotels grew a conscience, because Frank showed them that silence costs more than speaking up. The Rat Pack formed shortly after. Frank, Sammy, Dean, Peter, Joey. They performed together, walked through the same doors. Every time, Sammy remembered that night, the night his brother chose him over everything. Frank never talked about it publicly, never bragged. When reporters asked about the Sands incident, Frank shrugged. Just a disagreement. Nothing interesting. But Sammy knew, Dean knew, the people who mattered knew. Frank lost money that night, lost contracts, made enemies, but he gained something more valuable, respect, not the kind you buy with talent, the kind you earn by doing what's right when it costs everything. Years later, 1965, Sammy married a white woman, May Britt, controversial, dangerous. Frank was his best man. They stood together at that wedding. 2 brothers who'd walked through fire. And nobody said a word about race. Because Frank had made it clear, you disrespect Sammy, you disrespect me. The punch Frank threw in 1954 echoed for decades. It didn't end racism, didn't fix Vegas, didn't change the world overnight. But it changed something. It showed people that silence isn't neutral, that looking away is a choice, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand up. Frank Sinatra sang for 60 years, made millions, won awards, became a legend. But the night he stopped singing and threw a punch for his friend, that's the night he became more than a legend. He became a man who knew some things matter more than applause. Sammy Davis Jr. died May 16, 1990, throat cancer, 64 years old. Frank stood at the funeral, 74, crying. He touched the casket, whispered something. Later, someone asked what he said. I told him I'd do it again. Every time. This isn't just a story about racism or a punch. It's about what friendship costs when standing up means losing everything. Frank could have kept singing, could have looked away, protected his career, but he saw his brother dragged out like trash. And he chose. Not the smart choice, the right choice. That's the Frank Sinatra nobody talks about. Not the guy with the martini. not the smooth singer. The man who knew fame means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. The punch Frank threw didn't just break a jaw. It broke the silence. Frank Sinatra dropped the microphone that night, and in doing so, he picked up something more valuable: his integrity. Remember that.